Welcome to the second weekly installment of the Oneness series, where we discover oneness in the parasha of the week. This week is the story of Noah and the flood. And there's an interesting thing. We're going to talk about two types or two levels of tranquility and how they really come together as one. So Noah's name means tranquility or rest. It says that when he came around, he brought rest to the world. So that when the Torah introduces us to Noah, it says, Eile toldot Noah. These are the offspring of Noah. Noah ish tzaddik. Noah was a righteous person. Then it gets to the names of his children. And the Medrash asks, why doesn't it just say, these are the generations of the offspring of Noah? And then just say the names. Why does it have to repeat Noah again? So it's like, the Torah doesn't have vowels. If you look at the pasuk, at the verse, it's like Noach, twice Noach. Which if Noach means rest or tranquility, implies, it's like saying rest. Obviously you're taking it out of its literal meaning and context, but the Torah doesn't have vowels and there's many levels of interpretation. So let's look at this verse, Eile toldot Noach. And the Medrash Rabbah says, what is the double expression of the word Noach? And there are two dimensions of rest and tranquility that Noach brought to the world. Obviously he came after a flood. The world was cleansed from this mabul, this turbulence, and he brought a whole new level of tranquility to the world. So the Medrash Rabbah says Noach means naicha. It was rest for him and rest for the world. It was rest for the heavens and for the earth. It was rest for this world and for the coming world. So from there we see that Noach, the double expression of the name Noach, implies a double level, two levels of tranquility, of peace, of rest. Now the word Noach also we find in the context of Shabbos, of Shabbat. It says on the seventh day, Vayonach v'yom hashvi'i, that Hashem rested on the seventh day. And the word Noach, or Nach, is the same letters as the word Noach is there. So the double expression of Noach also can be understood as two levels of Shabbos. Noach is like saying Shabbos. In fact, in the Aramaic, the Unkula says V'noch b'yom shvi'ah, that Hashem rested. It's actually the word Noach. So the word Noach as a substitute for Shabbos tells us that there's two levels of Shabbos. And we see this in a fascinating Talmudic discussion where the Talmud Bavli, the Babylonian Talmud, says that if the Jews would only keep two Shabbosim, or Shabbosos, then Mashiach would come. It would bring redemption to the world. Whereas the Talmud Yerushalmi, the Jerusalem Talmud, says that the Jews kept one Shabbos, it would bring liberation and redemption to the world. So which one is it? Are they arguing? Is it one or is it two? So the Alter Rebbe teaches us in the Likutei Torah that really they're talking about the same thing. The Bavli, the Babylonian Talmud, is talking about two dimensions of Shabbos, and that's the same exact Shabbos that the Jerusalem Talmud is talking about, which is one Shabbos, just that there's two dimensions of Shabbos. What are these two dimensions? So the Zohar tells us that there's Friday night and Shabbos day. Friday night is called Malei Shabbata, and Shabbos day is called Yom HaShabbata. And they represent two different dimensions of tranquility. Friday night, you're coming back from a mabul, from a flood of work, you're drowning in the worldly affairs, and you're coming, basically you're catching your breath, you're leaving worldliness and entering a divine space of Shabbos. That's an initial stage of rest. Shabbos morning, you're very rested up, and you're now focused on having a divine experience. You're going to daven, you're going to learn Torah, you're going to infuse your divine soul and let it express itself with godliness. So Friday night, the rest is more about, well, you can say the body is resting, and then once the body rests, you can have a spiritual retreat on Shabbos morning. So you would say rest is stage one, rest up, and then you can have a spiritual retreat. You can't have a spiritual experience and a retreat and really liven up your soul when you're exhausted. That's just a body and soul, two dimensions. But even in the soul experience, Friday night, we take the experiences of the animal soul, of the human experiences we've had during the week, which may be worldly, and we try to integrate them into holiness and sort of reframe them and re-experience them from the position, from the context of Shabbos. So even on the soul experience, Friday night is about taking a deep breath and rethinking about our experience of the week from the context of Shabbos. So it's elevating the world to Shabbos. In the words of Chassidus or Kabbalah, it's Aliyas HaMalchus or Aliyas HaOlamus, elevating the worldly experience to a divine one. Whereas Shabbos morning is a purely divine experience. You're not thinking about the world. You haven't come just stepped out of work straight into Shabbos. You've had a night to rest up, and that is your Shabbos experience. It's purely divine. So those are the two dimensions of Noach, the two dimensions of Shabbos, and stage 1 and stage 2, which we'd call maybe rest and retreat, or the elevation of worldliness into godliness for Friday night, and the purely divine experience of Shabbos day. Where the oneness comes in is in Shabbos afternoon at Mincha. We say in the prayers, Ato Echad V'Shimcha Echad. We talk about Hashem's oneness, and that's the fusion of the male and female components of Shabbos. Friday night is the female, and that's why we talk about the Shabbos queen. We sing L'Chadeidi, we welcome Hashem as the queen, and in the davening we say V'Yanuchu Vo, may we rest in her. Whereas on Shabbos morning we say V'Yanuchu Voi, may we rest in him. So there's a male component, and on Shabbos afternoon we say V'Yanuchu Vom, may we rest in them. It's the combination of the male and female components of Shabbos. And basically when we go to a point where, from Hashem's point of view, it's all one. That's the oneness aspect, bringing the two dimensions of Shabbos together. And that's why we say in the Chadeidi, Zocher b'shomer b'dibur echad, that we know that the Ten Commandments were given once, but in the Torah it's written twice. One is written Zocher, you should remember the Shabbos day, and one says Shomer es Yom HaShabbos, you should guard the Shabbos day. And the Kabbalah says that this is a male and female component of Shabbos. And then we say, Zocher v'shomer b'dibur echad, Hashem said both of them in one word, something which a person cannot comprehend or do. So from Hashem's point of view, it's all one. There's nothing higher and lower. They're both valuable aspects and dimensions of Shabbos, whether it's the resting of the body, or whether it's bringing the worldly experiences into Shabbos, or whether it's a higher dimension of Shabbos, they both really are one. So we recognize the oneness of Shabbos ultimately on the Mincha of Shabbos. Have a good Shabbos, and may it be a truly peaceful, tranquil Shabbos, both levels of Shabbos.